I did.
Oh. I think you have a smudge on your lens. Clean your lens.
Me?
No, Ken.
Ken.
Yeah, I have nothing to clean it with. It's
All right, so good afternoon, everyone.
not a smudge.
We
Good
see
evening.
everyone is coming. We have participants
Yeah.
entering the room. Good afternoon. Let's wait a couple of minutes so we can get more people logging in. Excellent. I think that we are ready to go, right? While we are waiting, please tell us in the chat box, how did you hear about this webinar? I think that would be a nice way to use the chat room, right? How did you hear about this webinar? And also maybe like, what is your profession or what do you do for life? Excellent. All right. So thank you all for being here today. My name is Angela Ventura. I am the director of United Way of Broward County's Commission on Behavioral Health and Drug Prevention. Thank you to United Way of Broward County's Commission on Behavioral Health and Drug Prevention. Also, thank you to Broward Behavioral Health Coalition and to the Florida Department of Children and Families for making this event possible. Unfortunately, Judge Michelle Singer cannot be here with us today, but thank you so much to the distinguished panelists for taking the time to join us to talk about the drug court and its amazing role in reducing substance use and crime in our community. At the systems level, the drug court brings together criminal and juvenile justice, treatment, education, and other community partners. Drug court combines intensive judicial supervision, mandatory substance use treatment, and drug testing with escalating sanctions and incentives to break the cycle of addiction and crime and turn defendants into productive members of our community. So thank you so much to our distinguished panelists and for working every day reclaiming lives lost to addiction and criminality, and for reunifying families, for saving substantial taxpayer dollars by reducing the number of incarcerated defendants. And on top of that, for being here today with us, opening up this so much needed conversation. Thank you also to all the attendees for being here supporting our efforts. All your questions, please place them in the Q&A box. We're going to be closing the chat so we can focus on the conversation. And so thank you so much to all the judges again. And I think we'll start with Judge Susan Spector, who is going to give us a little bit of the history of the court, correct?
Sure. I thought I was just doing introductions, but I'll give you a history of the court too. Hi, my name is Judge Susan Allspector. I am the felony drug court judge for the 17th Judicial Circuit. That's Broward County. Thank you for having me, Angela, and to the United Way. What a wonderful presentation. So excited to be able to participate. I was elected as a judge in August of 2018. I took the bench in January of 2019. I have had the benefit of being in 3 different divisions, both civil and criminal, in my 3 years here so far, which I think has really made me well-rounded. And most recently now, I have been the felony drug court judge since October of 2021. I find it one of the most fulfilling, although being a judge is fulfilling in and of itself, one of the most fulfilling and gratifying experiences to be able to help people dealing with addiction. And I can see in real time over a period of weeks and months how people get better. It is stunning to me, the progress when you are persistent, when we all are persistent in helping people get sober and get well, because it is a journey for these folks and it doesn't happen overnight. But the methodologies that we use in the problem-solving courts and specifically in the drug courts that you'll hear about today are repetitive methodologies to be able to help people get better with constant interaction with the drug court and treatment providers and others. So that's the overview of what we do in drug court. The way I see it on a regular basis is to be interactive with people all the time and help them through this journey and the impediments that they find along the way. So just quick facts about the Broward County Adult Felony Drug Court. It was created in 1991. It is the third oldest and the second largest drug court in the nation. And it includes a pretrial diversion program, a post-adjudicatory, which is a post-plea drug court program as well. They're two separate programs. And pretrial would mean diversion would be before a case goes to a judgment, right? A conclusion where someone is entitled to get a dismissal. Post-adjudicatory would be people that would otherwise be prison bound, and they are given the opportunity to participate as part of their probation instead of going to prison or receiving other punitive sanctions. They're entitled to participate in the drug court treatment program. The goal, of course, for all of the problem-solving courts and for drug courts in particular is to reduce recidivism, which I'm sure will be part of the topic of the conversation. And just one more brief thing, because I'm already monopolizing. The Broward County Adult Drug Court is a collaborative effort among the Broward County Commission, the Broward County Sheriff's Office, the Court Administration of the 17th Judicial Circuit, the State Attorney's Office, the Public Defender's Office, the Clerk's Office, the Department of Corrections, State of Florida Department of Corrections, and the Judiciary. So it is truly a collaborative effort. I will yield the floor now after talking too much. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Judge Bristol. Judge Ari Spector. So now let's do some self-introductions. So let's start with Judge Bristol.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'm Judge Bristol. I'm in my 18th year on the bench in Broward County. I'm the administrative judge for our 4 unified family courts, domestic violence, domestic relations, juvenile delinquency, and dependency. And I preside over 3 problem-solving courts in the dependency division, the dependency drug court division, the juvenile drug court division, and our early childhood court. I also co-chair with Judge Steve Leifman from Miami, the Florida Courts Opioid Initiative, where throughout the year, we have opioid awareness days, which have been recognized by the Supreme Court of Florida. And we do trainings throughout the year on substance abuse disorders and opioid abuse disorders. I'm a firm believer in our problem-solving courts. We've got a number of them in Broward County. I love being able to work with the families in dependency drug court and our ECC court and juvenile drug court. It is a collaborative effort, and it is a team effort to be able to help these families be successful in dependency court to get their children back into a safe home. And I'll be happy to answer some questions a little later on after introductions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Judge Bristol. So now, Judge Gottlieb.
Hi, I'm new to the gang. I'm Judge Gottlieb. I have been a judge for 11 years. I had a life before being a judge. I was a lawyer for 20 years with a civil practice. I was a city commissioner in the city of Hollywood for 6 years, a state representative for the South County area. I also am chair of the criminal division for the 17th Circuit County Court and will become president of the Conference of County Court Judges for the state of Florida in July. I really love being a judge. It's been the best and most rewarding job I've ever had. I don't even like calling it a job because it's just a part of life that I really enjoy. And it's wonderful to work with these great judges and Rudy, Dr. Morell, a great magistrate, and working with all of them. And they know so much about these issues. And it's great for me to be able to work with them and learn from them and work with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge Gottlieb. And now, Magistrate Rudy Morell.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Judge Gottlieb. I have been a sitting magistrate in felony drug court since 2019. I was appointed at that time. I work with Judge Alspector with the same participant population. So they're all felony criminal participants. I do have a background in medicine. I'm a trained physician as well. I was introduced actually to addiction medicine back in the Stone Age. I can't even tell you how long ago, about the time the Betty Ford Center was being put together, which is a long time ago, in Georgetown, Georgetown Hospital, and had a very interesting experience. Didn't really work with substance use disorder until law school. And then I got interested in therapeutic jurisprudence with Bruce Winnick, and did some research in more mental health, but still therapeutic jurisprudence. And then I was recruited by the Public Defender's Office by Howard Finkelstein, a big believer in therapeutic courts, about 15 years ago, and was a public defender in drug court in the 17th Judicial Circuit for about 15, well, I guess it's 13 years or whatever, and then until I was appointed. So very happy to be here, and looking forward to hearing some questions.
Thank you all again, and thank you to all the attendees. A reminder to all the attendees to please place your questions in the Q&A. We will be watching the Q&A and responding those questions. We got one already. How is drug court different than criminal dependency court or dependency court? So who wants to respond?
I mean, I can speak about dependency court, and I guess the other two can speak about criminal drug court. So in regular dependency court versus dependency drug court, we have in dependency drug court educated stakeholders. Everybody is on board and have been trained to work with parents who have a substance abuse disorder, opioid use disorder, and really trained to work with people who have suffered trauma. We work as a team, from the attorneys to the providers, the guardian ad litem, to the representatives from the Department of Children and Families, to support the parents to be able to be safely reunified with their children. During my orientations, I talk about the differences between dependency drug court and regular dependency court. I like to see the families in court more frequently so that we can monitor them to ensure that they continue getting the support that we're promising them. And it's basically a team-centered approach and treating these families and looking at them through a trauma-informed lens.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Well, I'll just say that the county court drug program is a little bit different in that we don't get charges anymore against the defendant for drug crime. So the people who are going through our drug court program are people who volunteer that they have a drug substance abuse problem, and they will have an opportunity to go to the drug court program. So our program went from being a very big program when we charged people with possession of marijuana to being a very small program, but it's just as important for the people who are involved in it. And the regular criminal courtroom is someone charged with a crime, someone who's going to be sentenced and punished by that sentence. The lawyers will vigorously defend their client, and there will be a trial, evidentiary hearings, and challenges. But if they volunteer to go into the program, I like to think of it as an opportunity for help, encouragement, support, treatment. That's very different than what happens in the regular criminal division. The case will be dismissed if they complete the program, and we do everything we can to make sure that the defendant will participate in the program. So it's a little bit different in that with the previous drug court judges, Judge Pollack, who retired, Judge Zeller, who had retired, and Judge Lerner Wren, they had cases that thousands of cases that came through their division. And I have currently very few cases, 36 people, but these are people charged with nonviolent, non-traffic crimes who admit to having a problem. And so those are the really distinct differences between the two courts.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So let's go to the next question. How does your drug court operate?
I'll take that one. In felony drug court, we handle, as I said in the introduction, pretrial intervention cases that would be ultimately diversion to a dismissal. So it's that classic diversion program where you don't go through the criminal track that Judge Gottlieb just described as vigorous defense by your lawyer, either taking a plea or going to trial, right, and asserting defenses. Here it is, just as Judge Gottlieb said, a cooperative effort. It is for treatment across the board for our two tracks of programs. The diversion program would be to obtain, after 1 year or more of treatment, continuous treatment, a successful completion and an actual dismissal of your felony charge. Okay. Also, we have what I said before, which is a post-adjudicatory drug court program. We call it PADC or post, where defendants come from other divisions, regular criminal divisions. They've taken a plea, and part of the condition of their plea is to participate in the drug court treatment program. So that program is smaller. We basically have about 100 in the post adjudicatory program. And right now we only have, it's a small number, approximately hovering around 300 in the diversion program. Prior to the pandemic, it was higher. In fact, prior to the pandemic, both numbers were higher. And for obvious reasons, the courthouse being closed for a long period of time and people being out of touch with their lawyers, the numbers went down. The goal is, and the court can certainly support more than the numbers that are here. And this court does expect that for the year 2022, we will see a significant increase in both our diversion population and our post-adjudicatory population. As I said, treatment is continuous, repeated hearings, usually every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, where people check in while they're going through treatment, and their treatment provides a report, and the report is read in court, and then either incentives or congratulations are provided for good reports, or sanctions may be offered in the form of smaller sanctions to larger sanctions. Sanctions could range from a verbal warning not to do something perhaps at the beginning, to sometimes your weekends in jail if you've just exceeded through non-compliance. And it happens, but it's pretty rare, very rare actually. And eventually people get the hang of it. But it is a very intensive program, takes a lot for both the post-adjudicatory and the diversion program, takes a lot of attention. And it sometimes takes some time for people to get used to the program, but that's how it operates, basically, to help people that are in the post program complete their probation successfully with the drug court program, or for the diversion program to obtain a successful dismissal of their case.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that response. We are seeing that people are asking the questions in the Q&A. We have some of them, so I will invite the judges to take a look at them and then see which ones do you want to answer live or type the answer.
I just have to let you know, I'm not seeing them. I'm just seeing the chat box that has
the Q&A is underneath. No?
I see this.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so we can review them as well. So who is eligible to participate in your drug court? How does someone enter your drug court?
Who wants to take that?
So for dependency drug court, anyone who's had their children removed due to substance misuse, whether the child was born substance exposed or the parents have been using either illegal medication or their prescribed medication inappropriately, that causes the child to be at imminent risk of abuse, abandonment, or neglect. Any one of those families can opt to come into our dependency drug court program. It's a voluntary program. You would have to agree to the finding of a child being dependent and agree to some form of the allegations that may be contained in the petition for dependency. We don't have trials. It is very non-adversarial, and the parent really, by volunteering, has to admit that they do have a substance abuse issue in order to be able to participate in our program.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Or
I'll just say that it's very easy to get into drug court and county court. All you have to do is ask if it's a non-violent, non-traffic case. And admit that there is a substance abuse problem. I hope that more lawyers start taking advantage of it for their clients. Even prostitution cases, both sides of the case can come through our system and get help. And it's easy, and they just show up, and mostly all our hearings since COVID have been on Zoom. So it's even easy to participate.
wow, yeah, they don't have to worry about transportation or
Not
wow.
from the court aspect of it, but they do have to participate on a regular basis with the treatment.
And I'll just round this out for felony court. It is typically any nonviolent third-degree felony or any other felony that's a nonviolent felony. Exclusions. We do not take trafficking cases. The purpose of drug court is, as everyone here, of those who are like mine certainly, is that it's for the end user. It's for the possessor of drugs, someone who has a substance use problem. Because again, the thought process is these folks are obtaining a diversion, and certain offenses would not be either are prohibited by the legislature from coming to the court because the legislature intends other criminal processes for those types of offenses. So, and that it would include, like, as I said, violent offenses. So those are excluded, and certain types of other offenses would be excluded because by their nature, the participant, we call them participants, not defendants when they arrive, they need to admit to having a substance use disorder and be amenable to treatment. We want to make sure that we're targeting that population and no others who might be enticed by the thought of a dismissal. So we have to certainly be careful when it comes to that in felony court, because we're talking about serious offenses. Even a third-degree felony could earn you 5 years in Florida State Prison. So, we're talking about a class of offenses where the goal is to help non-violent offenders with substance use problems. It is, again, voluntary, and they come in most notably through their lawyers. Their lawyers or maybe other judges, but the lawyers identify that this is something they may be eligible for.
Thank you. What is the most common drug of choice that you have seen in court?
For me in dependency drug court, it's unfortunately fentanyl is widely used right now. And just this week, we had 2 overdoses on fentanyl, and one parent didn't make it. Followed by opioids, followed way behind after that with cocaine and then marijuana.
I think in felony, in my court, at my division, I would probably say that fentanyl and marijuana, kind of 50-50 is what I see, followed by cocaine. And then so I have a few participants also who are showing up with methamphetamine.
And I have, in my courtroom, they have multiple uses, but marijuana is at 81%, alcohol is 18%, cocaine 18%, opioids 36%. That's kind of a breakdown.
Interesting.
Yeah. What advice do you have for families of people in drug court?
Well, I would, if I could take that question, I would strongly urge families to get involved with their family members in drug court. It can be life-saving. It is life-saving. And I have seen examples of that. I just had a participant within the last 6 months who would appear with her mother on a regular basis. And her mother was always there. And we always try to educate people on the use of Narcan, for people who are opiate users, to have Narcan in the house. And as treatment does too. And that's what we urge them to do. And treatment does the providers that we use do a fantastic job in providing them with the Narcan and encouraging that. And I'll tell you, they appeared one hearing, and it turns out the participant was there, the mother was there, and it turns out the participant had overdosed, and the mother had found her on the kitchen floor, unconscious, and used Narcan, and it saved her life. So this is a perfect example of how important it is for family members to be involved. It always increases the likelihood of recovery, I think, as well, in what I've seen.
Absolutely. I think that Narcan naloxone should be in every single home. Everyone should carry naloxone. And anyone that needs that, you can call South Florida Wellness Network. Actually, their phone number is 954-533-0585. They will teach you how to use it. It's very important because this really saves lives, right?
Angela, why don't you put that phone number in the chat box in case people want to see it?
I will do. Yes, and there are some questions there in the Q&A. So please, let's take a look at those questions.
If I may, there's a question from Lisa Keeler, who I recognized her name. I know she participated.
Yes.
Oh,
no.
she froze.
In a lot of these events. I think a Tower Forum event next week. So the question is, I'm from Project Opioid. What? Are you there?
Yes. You were going in and out for a little bit, but you're okay now.
Okay. The question is, there's somebody from Project Opioid Broward can give referrals for drug court. Can I give you referrals for drug court? Do you have collaborations with providers, nonprofits, et cetera? When you say referrals, if they have felonies for which they are eligible, yes, but I'm constrained by taking only those cases. So I'd love to be able to put the whole community through drug court, but they have to be people who have active felony arrests. So if you're talking about that, Ms. Keeler, I'd certainly love to have a conversation with you. I'm not exactly sure. I can put my phone number for my office in the chat box. I'm fine with that. I don't think anyone here is going to bother my assistant unless they really need to talk to my assistant about something where they need to reach me, but I'm perfectly fine with doing that, or I can say it. So I'm kind of stuck. The chat box isn't even working for me now. So there we go. Maybe it will again. Okay. Can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay, so I'll just put my office number, and Ms. Keeler, you can call me. And anyone else who has any other questions or follow up, I'm very happy to take it. Sorry.
Yeah. There's a question both in the Q&A and the chat box that are similar with regards to what are the elements of a typical drug court treatment program. For dependency drug court and juvenile drug court, a lot of that depends on the initial evaluation. When folks come into dependency drug court and juvenile drug court, we send them for an assessment, because what we want to do in problem solving courts is we don't want to give them the regular cookie cutter tasks and services to do, we want to make sure that those tasks and services deal with their specific problem or their specific issue. And they may have different traumas that they are self-medicating or using drugs. And they need to really address those traumas, because it's one thing to go through a program, but it may just be a Band-Aid on what the issue is. And especially in dependency drug court, if they don't address those underlying traumas and underlying issues, there's going to be a relapse. And those kids are going to be removed again. And that's what we are trying to prevent from happening. So they do an in-depth assessment on their history, and we ensure that the tasks and services that we're giving them fit what their specific issues are. That may be residential treatment, that may be detox before residential treatment, intensive outpatient treatment, regular outpatient treatment, along with peer support, a sponsor, attendance at AA and NA meetings, perhaps participation in a MAT or medication-assisted treatment program, along with individual counseling. And that individual counseling may have a trauma component to it. So depending on each individual, we craft a case plan that addresses what their specific needs are.
I'll add the same. It is essential. One of the, no one's talked about it yet, but best practices we're governed by and required to adhere to best practices. And one of the best practices is certainly to give people the treatment that they need, not overtreat or undertreat. And so we're judges. We rely on the clinicians. So we don't make level of care assessments. We rely on our clinicians to refer for level of care. So it starts with an assessment. And if it turns out someone is not doing well, maybe they need more, maybe they need less. Usually it's more, depending on their history. You get a feel for it after doing this for a little while. They'll be referred for a higher level of care and assessed that way. And then, so someone, if, for example, I think this helps everybody, in felony drug court, if someone's not already in treatment, when they start, they will start with the BSO outpatient treatment program. That is our outpatient provider of first choice when people come in. That doesn't mean that they have to stay there, though. What will happen is that they get assessed for a higher level of care if they're relapsing, or if they're in a life-threatening situation. There are times, obviously, when people are referred for a higher level of care from jail itself, right, from custody. And then sometimes just on the outside, they're referred to an IOP program and sometimes to a residential program. So you can see how that, so we do have all levels, as you would expect that we would, but we start with the assessment by our main treatment provider for outpatient. And that's work that's quite successful for us, because the communication between the court and BSO is certainly established on a level throughout criminal court, as we know. So it's a good interface to work with the Department of Community Programs in this regard. So that's pretty successful model that we've been using.
Is the role of a defense lawyer in drug court different than in criminal or dependency?
Well, having been a defense attorney for a long time in drug court, I think that's a good question. And that is always probably the defense attorney has sometimes the most the biggest requirement to modify how a defense attorney practices. When they're in criminal court, obviously they're advocating on behalf of their client on the merits of the case. But in drug court, instead of being center stage with the prosecutor arguing the cases, the defense counsel takes kind of waits in the wings and allows the participant and the judge to take center stage. And that conversation is what becomes that therapeutic modality. Of course, the defense attorney is there to make sure that due process rights are not violated. But it is a shared goal of both the prosecution and the defense of having this participant enter recovery and be successful in recovery. Why? Because obviously it's a benefit to the individual, but it's also a benefit to the community on the state side, where you get greatly reduced rates of recidivism. So I think in that sense, there is a difference. And statutorily, the drug courts are required to be non-adversarial, whereas in regular criminal court, they're adversarial.
Thank you so much, Magistrate Morel. Can you explain or describe to the audience why do you think that drug courts are effective in general, and why your drug court is effective?
Well, if I may, just to give a general statement on drug courts, we refer to drug courts as drug courts, but really, and you've heard the term as well used, we're treatment courts, we're problem solving courts. We're certainly focused on substance, use disorder, and the providers are focused on that. But we have stakeholders in our drug court teams who provide real educational opportunities, housing, employment. Those are all integral and all important in trying to get somebody to successfully get in recovery. And I'll just say, the most successful intervention in the history of this country in leading people out of lives of substance misuse and into lives of recovery and stability are drug court problem solving course. That is period. I mean, that's a fact.
And it is also wonderful to see the unfortunate part when everybody comes into the program and there are problems that they have to deal with, and they fail drug tests and they have admitted to a problem. And then you see as they work through it that they are not failing drug tests, and their lives are starting to get back to normalcy. And you see the difference just in their personal look, the way they interact with us during our hearings. It is a huge sense of accomplishment, success, and lives of not just the person in the group, in the program, but their families, everybody affected by the things that are happening in their lives. I think that is just a wonderful, wonderful thing to see happen in Broward County, that can happen, and the state of Florida, since many of the counties in Florida do it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Judge Gottlieb. Another question. What is the most challenging part of drug court for the participant and for you as a judge?
Well, for me as a judge, the most challenging part is having a parent relapse and getting them back on track. And I think the most challenging portion for the parent is to trust in the process and realize that we are not adversarial and that we're there to help them and that we want them to succeed. So when I do an orientation for drug court, I let them know the most important part about being in our drug court program is honesty. And I let them know that we understand that relapse is a part of that recovery process. But if that happens, we want to hear it from them. We don't want to necessarily find out from somebody else or see it on a drug test. We want to know that the services that we're giving them are going to give them the tools to help them make better decisions. And we have had parents come in and admit to relapses prior to taking a drug test and admit to being triggered by something. And it helps us tweak our case plans so that we can deliver them better services or the services that they need to get them back on track. So I think the challenging part for them is to trust us, that we're gonna give them that support and that we're not going to flip out over a relapse or a positive drug screen, and that we're gonna work together as a team to get them back on track, because we're confined by a specific period of time in dependency drug court. Parents only have 12 months to be able to complete or to be in substantial compliance of their case plan in order to get their kids back. Otherwise, the goal may change to permanent guardianship or adoption. So it's very important for us to ensure that we address those relapses if they're going to happen much earlier in the case than later in the case.
This is wonderful. And I remember a couple of years ago, we did an event there at the court, and it was amazing to listen to the stories, all those successful stories. Oh my gosh, I think that we need to do another event showcasing those successes. I think that would be wonderful. Anyone wants to add to that question, or we jump to the next one? Let's jump to the next one. How did you end up being a drug court judge?
Well, I inherited Judge Aramoni's division when she retired. She was the dependency drug court judge. So dependency drug court has been in existence for over 18 years because I've been on the bench for 18 years. And juvenile drug court is relatively newer. But I sort of got it because that's the division that I went to.
Mm-hmm. And you all just heard a bit of my history. What happened was the judge who was here, there have not been many felony drug court judges in the 20 years or so that it's been operating in Broward County. Judges tend to stay a while. So I think after it became formalized, if you use Judge Beach, Judge Tobin Singer, and Judge Navarro for a bit, Judge Navarro only left, not because she didn't like it, but because she had a life change that had her move up to Orlando and become a judge there. So it wasn't because she didn't want the division. In fact, she encouraged me to take it when it was offered. It is a unique position. I think everyone here would agree that it requires compassion, patience, a genuine desire to help your community, and a feeling that everyone is entitled to some form of redemption or a second chance. And so those ideas resonated with me when I got the opportunity to become the drug court judge. And that's how I became, because I was selected as one of my administrative judge asked me if I would do it, my criminal administrative judge. And it was it was a good fit for me initially, and I see actually I've grown into the position even more in the past 5 months or 6 months. So it is really a very fulfilling place to be if you're a public servant.
I think it's important to note that for anyone that wants to work with a problem-solving court or a drug court program, to understand that you really should be educated on what the program is, what substance abuse disorder is, what an opioid use disorder is, because you're dealing with a population that has suffered trauma and they have a disease. And it's important for people to understand that they have a disease, and how you interact and speak with people who have this disease is really important, because how you deliver your message may not be how it's being received depending on where that person is standing. You have to meet these folks where they are at and really have to embrace that and understand that, because you don't want to re-traumatize them. So it's really important to take advantage of all the educational opportunities that are out there for training. The OSCA, Office of the State Court Administrator, has some great webinars up on their website, and there are some great conferences and drug court associations that have in-person and online and webinar things that people can attend to really educate yourself on the disease and how to interact with folks who have this disease to better deliver that message to help.
Wow, thank you so much for all those resources. And I think we are going to compile them, and we will email them to all the people that register. I think that the community needs to know about all these resources. So thank you. So maybe we can go through these questions here that have been answered. Would one of the speakers please describe the elements of a typical treatment program?
I think we did that.
Okay, so it was answered. Okay, perfect. At what point do parents with children in the foster system lose their parental rights if they are not following the court's recommendations?
As I had said earlier, parents in dependency drug court have a statutory amount of time that they need to become in substantial compliance of their case plan tasks, which is 12 months. At that period of time, if they're not in substantial compliance of their case plan tasks, the Department of Children and Families can choose to file a petition to seeking to terminate that parent's rights.
Excellent. Are there any longitudinal studies to track the successes and grow more programs in other areas using the Broward model? Wonderful program. Thank you all. That's Laura Siegels.
Okay, I want to address that because I know that a lot of people are here because they want to know how effective the drug courts are. The recidivism rate generally across the board, even across Florida, is 20 to 25%. So basically between 20 and 25% of the graduates are rearrested. So we're talking about graduates are rearrested after 20%, 20 to 25 are rearrested after 2 years with either a misdemeanor or a felony. That stayed pretty consistent. Like I said, in the Broward County Felony Drug Court and in Florida in general. So that's generally a rule of thumb. As far as saving money, I think the studies may be a little behind because of the pandemic, but the issue of saving money all goes with that recidivism rate. So it goes with people who are saving, if they stay sober, right, graduate from the program and stay sober, the effect is not only on the criminal justice system because we don't see recidivism, but they also are not a strain on other of our public services that are provided through our tax dollars. So you can understand what that may be. That may be police, right? That may be public assistance, whether they need public assistance because they don't have a job. That may be our welfare system, of course, you know, the state system where money is given because someone doesn't have a job. So all those services that people are not able to afford or that they're not, because they're not sober, right, are harder for them to attain that we hopefully as sober individuals have in life. All of those systems are stressed. So there's savings not just in the court system, but all across the board with public agencies and public agencies and entities across the state of Florida, certainly in Broward County.
Excellent.
And the Department of Children and Families keeps longitudinal studies, and they keep it up in Tallahassee with the Office of the State Court Administrator through our data collection. So there are studies that show the recidivism rate plus the rates of reunification versus adoption with dependency drug court cases as well.
Excellent. So here's another one. How often are repeat offenders allowed back to drug court?
Well, I'll just say that we're not going to turn anyone away unless there's a problem in county court. And each judge is going to have the discretion. But as Judge Allspector mentioned in the beginning, this is a collaborative effort, and the state attorneys involved and the public defenders involved and the courts are involved and the sheriff's office is involved. So if there's no objection, we're going to allow them to go, because sometimes it didn't work the first time, maybe the second time it will work, the third time it might work. So we don't say no to anybody that everybody agrees to.
Thank you. Here is a question from Coral Cohen. What, if any, is the interaction between the Broward drug and mental health courts?
I think I can answer that. I was going to type an answer, but it's a little more involved. There is no interaction as far as the case is concerned. So they're both problem-solving courts. A mental health court actually works a little bit differently. But there is a mental health diversion program that was recently started by our circuit which is the same concept for people getting treatment, except not with substance abuse, what was met with mental health disorders. As we probably in this recovery community are familiar with, there are people that present with both substance use and mental health disorders. They may qualify for either program. Just so from a practical perspective, this community knows and those listening know, the mental health diversion program is newer, just started. So it might, it is, I should be careful about how I speak for them, but I don't know if it's fully established. They are rolling it out, but it basically is a referral system. And they are, it's a referral system just like it is for the drug court, the felony drug court. And the goal at the end of that would be a diversion program. But the case is, if someone has both a substance use and a mental health disorder, they're not in both courtrooms at once, if that answers your question.
Dependency drug court is sort of a little different because we do want to address all of the issues that a parent may have. So while their case is just in dependency drug court, we do want to address their mental health issues. So we do, in cases that need it, require them to see a psychiatrist or see a psychologist and perhaps get a psychotropic medication to help with their mental health issues. We also have some dual diagnoses programs and residential programs that'll address both their substance abuse issues and their mental health issues as well.
And just to add to what Judge Alspector and Judge Bristol stated, it's not really an answer to the question. We don't combine, with we don't work together with mental health court. But as Judge Bristol pointed out, also in felony drug court, we definitely refer and have in-house resources for mental health treatment. And oftentimes, it's in the courtroom that we as judicial officers see somebody who looks and appears, not being compliant, not succeeding like they used to, and there's a low-level depression or maybe even a significant or severe depression. And we'll make those referrals just to be evaluated. We don't make a clinical determination, but we can order them to get evaluated, get assessed by our in-house psychiatrist. And oftentimes there is dramatic improvement when they do see someone and maybe have never seen anybody in their lives. It's the first time that they've ever actually gotten proper mental health treatment. And it's really gratifying to see that happen.
What would be a disadvantage of participating in drug court? It says, why wouldn't more people want to participate? Is there a limit on the number of people who can participate?
Love that question. It almost is like, who wouldn't do it? It's a no-brainer. I agree. To me, it's a no-brainer. If you otherwise qualify, eligible pursuant to the statute, and I put that in the chat box for everyone to see, that if you qualify and you do have a legitimate substance use disorder and are amenable to treatment, then yes, I would encourage people. I think part of it, and part of the reason that the United Way is providing this program is so that people are more educated. Our community is more educated about drug court being a resource that people that are justice involved have the opportunity to know that it exists. They may not know, and usually the folks that come in on drug charges don't have a litany of other criminal history. So it is true that they're not sophisticated and familiar with the criminal justice system, may not know to ask, may not know it's available. And so for those reasons, anytime that we're clear, we don't just get referrals from lawyers, we need referrals. We need people in the community to know that justice involved individuals can find treatment in misdemeanor court, in felony court, in dependency court. These are options for them, because we certainly know a lot of people are in court. So it's very, very possible that they may qualify for one of these programs and don't know it. So we'd be thrilled to have you all spread the word.
Absolutely. And I know that you do some programs with the youth, right? Like they can go and attend some court, in the past we did like attend some hearings and pay
Mhm.
attention and learn about the process. I think that is wonderful. And some of them used to go with their families. So I think,
Pre-COVID.
yes, yes,
But maybe
pre-COVID,
again.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yes, there are some other questions here, like what percent of the participants graduate and what is the average time spent in the program?
Well, since no one's jumping in, my program's brand new. Like when I started, Judge Pollock was the drug court person for county court, and they were synonymous. Drug court, Judge Pollock. It was her thing. We had thousands of people in drug court, but the laws changed. We don't arrest people for possession of marijuana anymore for small amounts. So the people who volunteer to come into the program are not drug-related offenses. So the whole program was stopping. So I asked Judge Tudor if I could do it in a minimal way since I knew it would be small. And so far, we started it this year or this past year, and we've had one graduate so far. But I expect that we're going to have a bunch more coming up because I've seen such a turnaround at every hearing I've had of all the people who are now actually doing so well in the program. We have a lot of great people coming through the program who are being successful, very successful. So we're going to have a few, but right now I've only had one, but we need to get more people into the program.
There's a question here from Ms. Gelda, and I think Judge Alspector would like to answer this question. Is there a guide describing the various diversion programs?
We have pamphlets that we have for our diversion program and for our post-adjudicatory drug court program. I'm not exactly sure who is asking. Oh, there we go, Ms. Gilda. I don't know where Ms. Gilda is from, but we do have brochures that are printed out and are available throughout the courthouse. They're certainly here in the drug court, but I think they've been distributed. My case manager's listening and she's going to say, oh my gosh, I hope she gets that right. They're distributed throughout. I should say my drug court coordinator, not my case manager. My drug court coordinator is listening. She's got all that. She was the one who was instrumental in getting the brochures published. So they are available for use. You can contact my office, numbers in the chat box, and we can make sure that they are provided to you. So that's a great resource for a handout, and we certainly can order more.
Absolutely great, thank you. It says, okay, what's the difference? Okay, between drug court and put patient in rehab. I don't know, anyone of you? What is the difference between drug court and put a patient in rehab?
Well, inpatient may be part of the drug court program.
Okay, yeah.
And I just wanted to remark before I see folks starting to log off because we're at an hour mark.
Yes.
Our courts are open to the public. I know that a lot of us are still on Zoom. But our Zoom addresses are on the 17 Judicial website, and my drug court days for dependency drug court are on Thursdays. And if we were live and in person, you would be free to come in and watch court. And I certainly don't discourage anybody who wants to see a drug court program in action from popping in on our Zoom.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, so.
Criminal drug court is open in person. My court runs every day, Monday through Thursday, and some selected Fridays in person from usually 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Magistrate Morel is the same way. They are public proceedings. You're welcome. You're encouraged. Please join us. Don't be shy. You sit in the back, and if I say, hi, are you here for a hearing? You say, I'm here to watch. I was invited by you. I'll say, perfect.
Amazing, wonderful, yes.
Thursday afternoon, 1:30 Zoom.
Excellent. So we will be sending to all people that who registered and to all attendees of this information. So you will have it on your emails. Thank you all for participating. The questions that got an answer, we will send the responses as well. And 7 o'clock. So thank you so much. Thank you to all the judges for
Thank you.
joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.